would please, when you're not talking, mute your own phone just by using the mute on your phone itself, so there's no background noise. That would be very helpful. We want everybody to be able to hear the questions and hear answers. And before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that I've heard it from many a top producer in this business that the quality of your questions determines the quality of your business. So I hope you have all come prepared and have some good questions for Chantel and I. Chantel, you're there, right?
I'm here, Paige.
Okay, gotcha. All right, who wants to be first?
Don't be shy, guys.
Oh, this is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Good morning. So this is probably going to sound a little silly, but I'm still going to ask it because it's interpreted by many different people in different ways. So a lot of the top producers talk about building value in the home. So my question to each of you, Chantel and Paige, how do you each build value in the home, whether it's mortgage protection or final expense or even when you're doing annuities? How do you show the clients the value of what you're presenting to them?
Well, Chantel, I'll go first because I'm going to let you follow up. You're the annuity specialist. Okay, so Sarah, that is not a silly question. It's actually a very good question. What I do, let's take final expense first. For me, when I write out their quotes, either right beside it or under it in very big letters, I write out what I consider to be the components of that product I'm showing them. So let's assume it's Eagle Premier or Living Promise, okay? I'm going to write out level whole life, and then underneath it I write to age 120. I write immediate coverage, doubles for accident, builds cash value, and then I write living benefits and I underline it and I put in number 1, terminal illness, and number 2, nursing home confinement. I write all that out, and as I'm starting to write it, I'm starting to talk about it with them, and I explain what level means. I'll go over to the quotes that I made and say the death benefit doesn't go down, and I'll draw an arrow over the death benefit amounts going down, and the price never goes up, and I do a arrow going up, and I'm like, everything stays the same, and I cross out those arrows. I want them to visually see what I mean by level, okay? I'm stressing that immediate coverage. Heaven forbid something happened to you even 24 hours later after your first payment. This is going to pay. You know, I'm stressing the doubling for the accident because a lot of times I'm in a mortgage appointment, but I'm selling whole life because of age or health or both. So I want them to realize that, you know, they might be looking at a $20,000 or $30,000 death benefit instead of their $100,000 mortgage. So I want to build the value in any type of accident. You fall, you hit your head, car accident, any type of accident, this is going to pay your beneficiary double. Then I talk about it builds that cash value. You can borrow from it if you ever need to or want to. And then I go into living benefits. And I always say, hopefully these never happen to you, but if they do, they are qualifying events where you can get part or all of your money out of your policy while you're still alive. So I go through all of that in a final expense or a mortgage protection that I'm actually writing whole life in, okay? Any questions about those before I tell you real quick on the mortgage?
No, I think I'm good on that one.
Okay. So on the mortgage, I use that 10-point sheet. It's labeled HMS Plan Benefits. I believe Drew Jordan out of Southeast is the one who typed up this sheet, and it's very beneficial because it really does hit the highlights of exactly what they are getting with HMS. And it's funny, even if I'm doing Term Life Express, I won't hand them the sheet, but I will mentally still kind of go down the checklist and do the things that apply. Does everybody have that sheet? If not, I can be sure we mail it out today.
I think you mailed it out a few weeks back.
Yeah, I'll send it out again. I know we have some new people on the call, so we'll send it again. If you've already got it, you can ignore it. But, I go over the fact that you choose a beneficiary. I go over the fact that it's portable. I go over that it's level and that the accidental that's included. And I hit the living benefits really hard, Sarah, that chronic, critical, and terminal illness, and how, especially if they are actually working, it's a little different when somebody's retired or on disability, because their money's going to keep coming, even if they get hurt or injured, right, or sick. But people who are working to pay their mortgage, I really stress those living benefits. And then, of course, the cash back if it's feasible for them at their age. So, Chantel, I'll let you take it from there.
I want to piggyback off of the mortgage as well, because I know myself. I come behind agents. I have agents come behind me, and if you're talking about Americo with the living benefits with HMS up to 100%, like they're the only carrier that I know that go up to 100%. Like Mutual goes up to 80%. So it truly is, like, people will hear, oh yeah, well they got living benefits. Well, it might only be up to 60%. So like people don't know what they don't know. So I really stress, like, a lot of carriers have living benefits, but this one's the only one I know of that goes up to 100%. Also, when I'm presenting with, if I'm in a mortgage appointment and I know that people are fixed on, they were really like wanting to pay the whole mortgage off, because that's kind of the way everybody's mentality is, and they don't qualify for it. I will also write out, like I'll start with common carrier, 30,000 common carrier, 30,000 accidental, 30,000 life. That equals 90,000. All of a sudden it looks a whole lot better to them. You're not lying. It is what it is, but they like to see a large number. I will also, with those appointments, look at piggybacking a whole life and an accidental if they're under the age of 60. So I've been doing that quite a bit lately, doing the HMS with the accidental, so that they can see, hey, I can get like $200,000 accidental and a $30,000 whole life, and that they feel better about it. So, that, because, they can't afford the $500 premium that it's going to be to do a term, even if they do qualify for it. On the annuity, so I think it's pretty simple. The question, I was in an appointment yesterday, and the lady has a variable annuity. Variable annuities have a lot of high fees. There still is no guarantee that they're not going to lose any money. Okay, so just presenting that to them, like, how much of that are you willing to lose? And do you understand the fees that are associated with what it is you have right now? And if I could show you something better, so I got statements from her. I'm going back today to go show her another option. Now, sometimes it might not always work out with people's accounts and stuff, but it's a foot in the door. So nobody wants to lose money. And when it comes to insurance, everybody wants to see that they got a lot of coverage. So I think when I love Paige's breakdown of like everything that policy holds, like, hey, that we're going to cover this. People like to see that. So definitely think that all of those points help help build value. Does that help, Sarah?
Definitely. I had because I came from a different IMO, there was a different way of presenting things. But the more that I listen to the training, the more I see that's exactly what everybody does, even with FFL. That it's showing them not just the pricing, but really what it means if something were to happen to them, either the death benefit or the living benefit. So yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Well, and I have one more thing to add, Sarah. Everybody needs to sell value in yourself. You want to let them know that you are now their agent. You are now 100% there to take care of them. I tell people, hey, I'm going to check in once a year. It could be a quick phone call or a quick stop by. I don't want them to freak out that, they're going to have to feed me dinner once a year or anything. But, I'm going to check in once a year. Sometimes life changes. I want to keep up with you. I want to make sure that we have you well covered and that you don't need anything. And, of course, you're free to call me. And then I also say, and then when something happens to you on your family's worst day, I will be here for them. I will be bringing the forms. I'll be, pointing where they sign, and I will help them get this check from the life insurance company as quickly as humanly possible. And, I work with A-plus rated companies because they do, they're good about paying their death claims and paying them quickly, but I will make sure of that. I will be here for your family. So you need to sell value in yourself, because Chantel brought up a good point. People are, even if you are getting exclusive leads, you need to realize people are filling out more than one form, or they're clicking on more than one post on Facebook or something like that, or more than one internet source. So they are potentially and probably meeting with other agents. So you also need to sell the value in yourself, so that if somebody comes in with something $5 or $10 less, they're like, yeah, but Sarah said she was going to help my family, and she said she was going to check in on me. And this person didn't say that. So I think I'm going to pay $5 more because I get Sarah with it. Can you see how that's really important as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I know just hearing from Zach Todarski and them saying, hey, listen, I'm the professional here. This is what I do. Not a whole lot of other people are going to say that.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, throughout the thing, you should be presenting yourself as a professional. Even new agents that are just joining us, what you had to do to get your license definitely qualifies you as the expert above the person or the family that you are sitting with. Great question, Sarah. Any more on that one?
Yeah, this is Kayla. This is just kind of going back to you, Paige, when you were talking about building the value. When you do that and you're writing all these things down, I know you said that then you reference the quotes. So you give them the quotes before you start writing down all of the elements of the policies?
No, I run the numbers first, and I just very nonchalantly put my hand over it, not like covering the whole thing, but like I'm holding the paper. And I'm like, okay, so guys, let me tell you what all comes with what the product that you qualify for. And then I start going through it. And once I show them all that, I then go over and show the quotes. I'll move my hand a little and do the arrows, but then I kind of put it back as I'm going through. And I've turned it so they can see it. And I've got my pen, and I'm pointing on each thing. Or if I'm saying it as I'm writing it, as soon as I'm done, I turn it and, again, take my pen and point on each thing. I want their attention. I want them to hear me say it, and I want them to see it on the paper.
Okay, thank you. And I do have another question. So I run into a lot of storytellers on my appointments. These, especially when you're talking about if they've recently lost somebody, then they go into, remembering everything about that person, and they start telling you everything about the experience of it. And sometimes it's hard to bump in there to get them to redirect back into what I'm trying to help them with and what I'm trying to show them. And sometimes I feel like other than just being like, okay, yeah, and jumping in and interrupting them, I haven't figured out a good way to be able to basically to interrupt them without just being blatantly rude or without making it seem like I didn't care about what they were saying. So sometimes they are just going a million miles a minute, and I've had trouble, and then it makes, a 30-minute appointment an hour. So how would you handle that type of situation?
Chantel, you want to go first?
Yeah. So that's really, that is a difficult situation, and I think sometimes when they're telling a story about that involves the why, it's really hard to stop that. But I think when they get off track, I think so you can kind of bring them back so that's the reason why this is so important to you. Is that right? And try to kind of cut them off in a gentle way, but bring them back to why you're there. I understand this is important. So, Doug, I can understand, appreciate where you're at, and that's the reason why this is so important. Is that right? And then try to bring them back. And then if they want to keep on talking, and then it's just more of a story, you've already got, hey, my wife died, she had cancer, it cost a lot of money, and they're going on with all that, if you can, in a gentle way. I heard Shawn Mike once say, listen, I would love to come back and talk to you another time, maybe when I bring a policy back to you, but right now I do have to keep on track so that I can help all the families that I've scheduled today. So that then they realize, that you're there for a job, right? So does that help?
Yeah, I think it does. There's always that worry that you're going to say something and then they're going to think oh, well, this person's just trying to sell me something. And so that, I think maybe what you just said would help in that situation a little bit more, just kind of trying to ease into it, but at the same time taking control of it again. So thank you.
Yeah, because let's be clear, a lot of these seniors that we meet with, they don't see a lot of people. Not all personalities are the same, right? And some people are not all that outgoing, but they are lonely and they don't get out much and see people. And I actually had a lady schedule an appointment with me just because she wanted to hang out with me. She was not interested in insurance at all. So when I got there, she was beating around the bush, and she was a character. And then I was like, what am I here for? And she was like, I was lonely. I just wanted to see somebody. And I had to very gently say, I'm sorry that I can't stay. I do have a lot of other people scheduled that, they're wanting my help with insurance. And, based on the story you just told me about where you're at and what happened, and, and then just because there's something that was said that did involve life insurance. So I'll just gently say, I can understand, but, I do have a lot of other people right now depending on me to get out there and help them. So I apologize, but I'm not going to be able to stay and hang out anymore, because it is hard. People do get chatty, and I think we all can fall into that, listening to them for too long. But, when you've got a busy schedule, you got to keep moving. So, you just got to be very cognizant and gentle about, how you say, and bring them back to why you're there. And if you're not going to be there to do anything, then you got to leave.
Yep. And,
right.
I tend to laugh I tend to laugh and just be like, oh my gosh, I could talk to you all day, but we got to stay on track here. I said, don't let me get sidetracked now. I'll do it too, and off I'll go. And I kind of, that self-deprecating humor that Sean Mike talks about all the time, I'll kind of put it on me like I'm the one, and that way it's a little easier to bring it back in. So a couple of really good examples there, especially the bringing it back to the why. That was a very strong point. Thank you, Chantel. All right, any other questions?
Yes. Hi, it's Janine. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Janine.
Hi. So yesterday I was in an appointment. It was a mortgage protection lead. And when I got there, it was a very nice couple, but they were very vague and very private about what they wanted to reveal to me. I mean, I was having a hard time understanding what it is they needed, what it was they had. And so my question is, how do I overcome situations where people are being very private and very quiet about what they need and what they have?
That's a great question, Janine, because we do get that with people. So myself, when I get people that, they might give why do you need to know that or whatever, I will just say, first off, let me go back. On the intro, like when I'm starting to discuss with them, I lay out the appointment, okay? So I set up the expectation of this is what I'm here for and this is what I'm going to do, okay? I'm here to help you find the best coverage that you can. I know you filled out mortgage protection, but just this is what I do. I help protect your identity to make sure nobody will ever steal anything or take any identity or anything from you. I also do mortgage protection. I do final expense coverage. I do regular life insurance. I also help set people up for retirement by rolling over the 401k, IRAs, things like that. I know I'm here for mortgage. What I'm going to do is spend a few minutes talking about your mortgage, your financials, what you have or don't have, and then a few minutes on your health. Once we go through that, we're going to look at what options are available to you that you might qualify for, and we're going to pick the best one. Once we do that, we're going to fill out a full application with that carrier and submit it to them, and I'm taken out of the picture. Then it's going to be between you and the carrier whether or not they're going to approve you. So let's get into your mortgage. I have here that you have $200,000. Is that a 30-year? And we'll go from there. Now, if they want to give me slack on, why do you need to know, I'll say, do you have anything else that acts like coverage, 401k, IRA? Why do you need to know that? Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, in order for me to give you my professional recommendation, we really need to know what your situation is to know what it's going to look like when one of you does not wake up. So for me to give you my professional recommendation, these are some of the things I need to know. Like if he has $500,000 and you don't have anything, then he might hurt more. Does that make sense? So I'm asking these questions just so I know your family situation and what you have or don't have. If I don't know these things, then I can't give you my recommendation. Does that help?
Yes, that was great. Yes.
Yeah, that was really good, Chantel. Really good. And I've told people too, Janine. I've said, I always do a needs assessment. If I walk in here and you've got, everything covered, then you don't need me. And I say that a lot of times. I'm like, I'm trying to determine, your true situation and your true needs. And without this information, I can't do that.
Yeah, and some people get weird with, why do you need to see my other life insurance policies? As if, I think they're thinking sometimes, if you see that I've got life insurance, then I'm not going to be able to get this. So what I then say is, listen, every time you apply for life insurance, it hits your MIB record, like when you apply for something and it hits your credit report. So they're going to see that different carriers have hit your report. They want to make sure it matches up. So when we say, hey, yes, she's got coverage with company ABC, and they see that on your MIB report, then they know that you're being truthful. Also, I'm not saying that you're going to do anything illegal here, but some people use insurance for other reasons, like laundering money, and they want to make sure that they know what you're doing. And then people are like, oh, my gosh, well, and then they get all freaked out, like, I never thought of that. And it's like, okay, well, let's just keep going here. And if you just keep like nothing's a big deal, like, why, like, then then you kind of like, without saying you're being weird, you're saying you're being weird. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. You're weird, lady. No.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm trying to do my job here, and this is what we're talking about, and it relates to it. So, like, why,
Right.
But
right.
But you got to make it not be a big deal, right? It's like, and tell them like the points, like why you need to know. Well, you need to know, and I mean sometimes I'll even say, I need to see your other insurance, because a lot of times people get the insurance. It's been years. They've had it for a long time. They know they pay their premiums. They might even know what the company is, but they might not know all the ins and outs of that coverage. They might have forgotten by now. So a lot of times we want to make sure that you're not going to be surprised by something that might be coming up, a change that might happen. So I want to make sure that we're aware of that. We know exactly where you guys stand. You've got this coverage. At this point, it might end, or it might convert to this. So I want to make sure that you guys have everything laid out and that you are very well aware of what's going to happen in the future. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's good. I do that too. I say a lot similar to that about, sometimes policies get more expensive, or they're going to end, and people tend to forget, out of sight, out of mind. So it's always best to check them.
Mhm.
I've had the same with medications, Janine, and I'm like, well, I can remember one appointment very clearly. He just didn't want to tell me, and his wife was like, don't tell her. then you won't get any. And I'm like, if you don't tell me, you're not going to get any, because I can't give you any recommendations. And they just went back and forth, and I finally was like, okay, and I started packing up my stuff, and he said, what? Wait, where are you going? I said, I'm leaving. He said, but you haven't given me anything. I said, no, you haven't given me anything, so I can't give you anything. And he was like, okay, and he went and got his bottles. And he wasn't on anything. His wife acted like if I knew, I couldn't get him coverage, right? So it was better to not tell me. And I'm like, you realize they're going to check your prescription history, even if you don't tell me. So, yeah.
And I lead into the medication part. I will lead into telling people, like, listen, just to let you know, like, because I'm a broker, I do not have to have the interest of the insurance company. I have your interest. So you need to be completely honest, so I can either steer you to or away from a particular carrier based on what it is you have. So some of them are sticky on certain medications. So as long as I know what you've got, we'll know what carrier we should go to or steer clear from. Does that make sense? And then they don't get weird. Then all of a sudden it lifts it up off them, like, oh, okay, she's going to make sure we don't put in an application with somebody that is not going to approve it.
Yep, I like that. I'm glad we're recording this, Chantel. I like a lot of your wording. So real quick, I know we're a few minutes over, but Dawn has question, and she's in a super loud place, so she's texted to me. She wants to know how we overcome we're just looking around for prices, and I'm not ready to sign up for anything yet, et cetera, et cetera.
Do you want to take that, or you want me to take that?
I think maybe both of us, but I'll say
okay, go.
I think I eliminate a lot of that in my introduction, I think. My introduction is very similar to yours, Chantel, and I'm telling them exactly what I'm going to do. You know, going to ask you questions, going to figure out what you're eligible for, and then I tell them I make sure I find something that fits in your budget. Everybody has one. It's critically important. I want to be sure that you understand and are completely comfortable with how this is going to protect your family. And lastly, we're going to submit a full application to the company to see if we can get you approved and get the coverage in place and your family protected. And, you know, does that make sense? Does that sound good? Anything like that, trial closes, like Matt Smith says. So then when I get down to it, I'm like, okay, at the beginning, we talked about if we found something that made sense, we were going to put in the application. So in observance of time, Chantel, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. You know, when in the intro, when they're saying they're shopping around, I will say, I understand, and here's the great news, because I'm a broker and I have all the access to the different carriers, I'm going to be able to do the shopping for you. And I'll kind of do a takeaway from them, and I'll say, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is that it's really not about the price, okay, because it's all regulated by the state. So if you're looking at, you know, one 20-year term to another 20-year term between the carriers, they're all going to be within like maybe $4 to $7 of each other. And I said, but what's different is what the coverage has included and what the carrier will or will not approve. So what we're going to do here today is see which carriers you will approve with, and then we're going to pick the option that best suits you. So I'm going to be able to look at all those different options for you, but if you're not with one agent, okay, if you're getting from many different agents, you might not know all the moving parts to what it is included in that policy, so you don't truly know whether you're comparing apples to apples. So what I'm going to do today is try to compare apples to apples with you. So I'm trying to eliminate them wanting to talk to another agent. You know, this lady is going to make sure that we're looking at the same thing and that, well, here's the difference between this one and this one. And I will educate people. When I'm with them, I'm educating them on the differences. Like, yes, you could do this, but over here, this is the reason why I'm recommending this one over this one. And people will appreciate that, and you kind of take away them wanting to think about it and shop around.
That's very strong, and I do something similar as well. Okay, one more question. Jennifer, go ahead and go before we end this.
My question is I have it's kind of a two-parter. So when I call a lead and when I tell them, they're like, what do you call them for? And I say, you know, you responded to an ad on Facebook about life insurance, and I'm here to get that information out to you. And they're like, oh, I already have insurance. And then the second part is when I'm in the home and, you know, kind of when they're like, well, I already have life insurance. And I understand selling the benefit of the living benefits, and I do that when I'm in the home. But sometimes I have a hard time, like, why am I here if you already have life insurance? You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. I think a lot of people, though, they don't realize, like, let's look at the big picture here. You know, like, and if everybody thinks about it in their own situation, like, you know, if my husband does not wake up tomorrow, all of a sudden his income is gone, okay? My two girls are going to go to college. They're going to get married. They're going to drive cars. Like, you got to really think about and talk to them and know what their family situation is so you can truly paint that picture on, you know, some people might think like, hey, if they've got $150,000 of life insurance, they're okay because their mortgage is only $129,000. What are you going to do for income replacement? Life insurance is for income replacement. What we're talking about here is mortgage protection. We're trying to make sure you don't lose your home. Do you want to go homeless? Like, do you want to take the income replacement money to pay for your home? Or do you want to, like, not feel the brunt at all? Like, I mean, like, really, you got to bring the emotion out in people, and you got to really make them think and look at their whole situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but my one of my main situations I run into is when they're older folks and maybe they're widows already, that type of thing. Then, like, their mortgage is paid off and they have life insurance, and then I
So
kind of
you're there for final expense, more or less.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can tell you a couple things. First of all, I never use the word ad when I'm calling Facebook leads. I say you responded to that Facebook post, because an ad makes it sound like we're coming to sell them something. So just a tweak in a word there. I don't use the word ad. Second of all, I usually say final expense programs. And if they ask me what that is, it can take care of your burial, any medical expenses you incur before you die, any outstanding debt that would roll to your family to pay. It can cover everything that would go so your family doesn't be burdened. So I tend to use final expense instead of life insurance, because then they're not thinking, I already have that. Does that make sense, Jennifer? Does that?
Yes, that is helpful.
Yeah, so I tend to do that. And then when I get there, I'm still calling it final expense, and I'm asking to see their current life insurance and trying to pull the whole picture together, as we've already discussed here today. And, if they have a good policy, I'm very honest and let them know, hey, you've got a good policy, good job on this. Don't let anybody else who comes in here tell you to get rid of it. But I don't think it's enough, and here's why. Or do you think it's enough because what I'm seeing this, and when your husband dies, this, So pointing out what you have found by using the client worksheet, the financial inventory worksheet.
Right, and be clear. Like, I think, like, when we really think back to how that whole process works, they were looking for insurance. Because they were looking for insurance, it populated their Facebook. So for them to start trying to tell you that they don't need it, they don't want it, they're lying. If they didn't need it and didn't want it, they wouldn't have been looking. So you got to find out, like, is it something about you? What is it you're doing? Do they just not like you and they want to move on and go look somewhere else? So that's most times what the case is. We're not going to get them all. I mean, but if you make them, and I'll just be straight and ask people, is it something about me? Because I can send somebody else out here if you don't want to work with me. And then, no, it's like, okay, I'm trying to give you my professional recommendation here on what it is. I know you were looking for insurance, and that's why you responded to that Facebook post. And I call them out on it. They're a lot older than us. They're smarter, like Mark Mead says. They're very intelligent people. They've been around a lot longer than we have. So, I mean, when you tell them, hey, I know how this worked, then I think you call them out on, you want insurance. Don't tell me you don't.
Good point. Very good point. Okay, guys, this was very good. We will do this again in case there are people who didn't get their questions asked. Sorry that we ran a little bit late, but a lot of good information. We'll definitely get the recording out, and also that HMS plan benefit sheet will be coming with it. All right, everybody, go make it a great week, and let Chantel and I know if we can do anything for you.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.